going to speak for half an hour, and then there'll be 15 to 20 minutes for questions. So we're all looking forward to what you've got to say. So thank you.
Okay, good morning everyone. And this is not the first time I've been with Brahma Kumaris. The first time was 40 years ago, that you mentioned earlier, when I met Daddy Janki in a very small house in Kilburn, and we had tea together. And it was a very special occasion. And then I've been to Oxford and other places with you. So glad to be back again. And so I have about half an hour, and then I've got 20 minutes where we can ask some questions. Now, I've got quite a lot of material to cover, but first of all, I want to introduce to you, for those of you who are not familiar with coaching, I'm going to show you a piece of film which is only 7 minutes long, and this was a spontaneous film. We were asked by the company that we were running a 2-day training course for to film the 2 days. This was a bank, by the way. Of course, it doesn't exist anymore, but it's a bank, and we did that course with them, and they wanted to have a video of the course to send round to their branches. And so they asked us to video the course. So it was completely spontaneous as it came, and we cut it down. This particular piece is just 7 minutes long, and we were doing in our coaching courses for 2 days, we included a sport experience, because it's very useful to have something you can actually see. Where you see a change of performance, it has an impact on people that you don't get in the workplace, because in workplace coaching, you know, you see somebody writing on a computer or something like that. It's not actually a physical difference. So we always use about an hour. We did some actual physical activity. I'm going to show you 7 minutes of film. I'm not going to talk about coaching. There's everything on this piece of film that you need to see if you need to understand the difference between coaching as it is now described and coaching with its historical background in sport. That's where the word came from, and those of you who had coaching while you were at school in sport, it is nothing like coaching today in a professional way. So it's fundamentally different. So this is to introduce you so that you can see both of them, because it so happened on this particular course, by chance, one of the people in the head office of this bank who came on this course had taught golf professionally before. So we got him to teach one beginner who had never played before, to teach that guy golf. And I took another volunteer, a girl, and taught her in what I would call coaching way. Okay, so what you're seeing is coaching and not coaching. All right? So we're going to run that film right now, and then we'll go forward from there. Only one thing I'm going to ask you to do is to watch this in a different way to your normal level of awareness. I'm asking you to not just hear what they're saying, but to really look at them, look at the body language, look at what they are doing, they are behaving, listen to the tone of voice, and also, you know, imagine yourself, if you were one of these two victims, that I call them here, what would you be feeling like if that was being done to you? So I'd like you to watch this film in a deeper way. I'm just going to run it, and then we'll move on from there, okay? Let's have the film now, please. Line up down this wall here so you can...
Ask, don't tell. Simple as it sounds, that's the message. To illustrate it, John is going to allow one accomplished golfer in the group to take a volunteer and tell them how to hit the ball, while John himself attempts to get another novice swinging effectively by doing nothing more than asking questions.
Take a swing at a couple of them.
Now, first of all, your feet should be roughly shoulders apart. Okay? So just stand like that. Yes, but that foot actually...
Just imagine yourself trying to cope with all the instructions Lindsay is about to receive.
You've got to grip the club. Hold your hands open like that. Okay? And put your fingers over the golf club so the thumbs are in line with the arms. You get your arms straight. Now, move your hands down the club a bit. And the small finger at the back, can you just lock it over like that? Okay, now, now that finger's supposed to be in line with your arm. So put that over like that. So far. No. Let's come right now. So you're in line. Okay? Now what I'd like you to do is just swing at that ball. And then we'll take it from there. Go on, swing.
Meanwhile, instead of telling Mandy, John coaches her by just asking her questions.
Find out what you notice when you're swinging at the ball. Where you're paying attention, what you're looking at, what you're feeling, anything that you notice when you go ahead and do this, yeah? Okay?
I wanted to hit the ball.
Okay, so
I
you're
was more or less concentrating on the ball.
You're concentrating on seeing the ball?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Weigh up for yourself the advantages and disadvantages of these contrasting coaching techniques. The two key things John's trying to achieve with his questions are raising awareness and generating responsibility.
Just tell me what part of your body feels more awkward than the rest. You might want to divide yourself in two and start off by saying, well, arms and shoulders. Let's see how that feels this time. Then next time we'll check out below the waist. That's it. Okay. So just tell me what's going on this time.
It doesn't feel sort of very fluid.
Doesn't feel very fluid. Okay.
Feels like I'm making an effort to do it.
Feels you're making an effort. So you would like to hit the ball in a fluid way, is that right? Okay. So let's make a fluidness scale, all right? Where 10 is very fluid and 0 is very awkward. All right? Let's just tell me where this is on that scale. Just hit this one and tell me where it is on the scale.
About 5.
About 5. Okay.
Now keep that side, imagine that side being against a wall. So keep it straight. And if you're swinging back, then hit, remembering that side is flat against the wall. Okay? Right, now, just go back a bit. Your shoulders need to be straight. You've got one shoulder down like that, okay? So can you keep both shoulders still and your head down looking at the ball? Okay? Now, can you also bend your knees a bit?
What else would you like to do? What would be the next step for you? Is there some other area of discomfort, or would you like to add in something? Next step for improvement for you. If you wanted something else in your golf, what would it be?
I'd like to do one of those nice sort of high ones.
You'd like to hit it high?
Yeah, high, a powerful one.
Okay, let's come back to our scale again. Let's just make a scale so we know what we're working with. Hit one and then tell me where that is on your power scale with 10 high.
A 6.
Okay.
It's more like it.
By the time this session finished, Mandy and Lindsay were both hitting the ball much better than when they started. But Mandy had reached her success through a process in her control, which she shaped, and most importantly, which she now owns. Because she made her own discoveries, the experience had a big impact on her. You can almost feel the pleasure she gets from acquiring a new skill.
Let's try it.
Got it, haven't
Done
you?
it, haven't you? Can't believe this. Oh, well done.
You looked as if you really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I did. It was absolutely amazing. I can't believe that he could make me even hit the ball properly, let alone do anything else. It was incredible.
Did he make you do it?
No, he didn't. No.
Who was doing it?
Me.
Was he telling you how to do it?
No, not at all. He didn't tell me how to do it at all. He just made me more aware of what I was actually doing. It's incredible.
Okay. Just wanted to show you that because there's an absolute distinction between the instruction that other person gave, which is what normally happens in sport. Sport is very, 50 years out of date. Sport coaching is years out of date. And what I was doing was what we call modern coaching, which is what we do in coaching in the workplace, for example, many other things. The difficulty we always have is when a large establishment adopts a certain way of doing things, it gets stuck there. Sport is stuck. In spite of the enormous amount of money that sport spends on coaches and all that sort of thing, they are still very old-fashioned and very stuck in their old ways. And one of the things we have to learn if we want to change, and this is very, very important today, is we have to unlearn the old in order to learn the new. Unlearning is hugely important. So many people, when they're training other people, they rush in, they've got 2 days to do the training, they rush in and they start training. It is very valuable to spend at least an hour and a half at the beginning of training getting people to unlearn, to let go of how they thought was the right way to do things, because then you have space which allows in the learning. And unfortunately that does not happen with many coaches, either in business coaches or in sport coaches. They don't do the unlearning component, which is very, very important. Okay? So, enough about sort of traditional coaching. I want to move forward from there and just see if this is going to do that. Come on to this, because what I've done is we talked about coaching here and a very simple demonstration of basic coaching, and what I'm going to say now is that why is coaching here? Coaching only started about 40 years ago, and I was one of the people who was involved in it in those days. Why did coaching start? Why did it happen? And that is what's important, and I think that's what's not recognized by most coaches. What is actually happening, we have reached a certain stage in human evolution, and I'm talking about globally. Every human being in the planet is evolving slowly, collectively. We can each evolve psychologically or psychospiritually, individually, but society as a whole evolves slowly over a period of time, okay? And that has been going on in our society, and then sometimes a particular culture or whatever it is goes backwards because they have a crisis of some sort, okay? What's happening now, we have a crisis, okay? And most of the world has this financial crisis. And that is something that we have created it. We have created it because we did not evolve quick enough to deal with the problems. Because we get stuck in the old ways of doing things, okay? So that happened, but the underlying point that I'm making here is that we have reached a vitally important stage in human evolution, possibly the most important stage we ever will reach, because we have always been accustomed to autocracy, have we not? Our parents told us what to do, our school teachers told us what to do. When we got a job, the boss told us what to do. We were in an autocratic system, a hierarchical system, and probably at least 80% of the people are told what to do by some authority or not, or so. Is that fair? Do you remember being bossed around by authorities? Well, that happens when we are very much infantile. And growing up is the time at which we take responsibility. And that is what humanity is facing now. We have to take personal responsibility for our own lives and make our own choices. So what happens? In order to force that to happen, hierarchy collapses. What has happened recently? 52% of our members of parliament were cheating on their expenses. 52% of them. The media, I don't have to talk about Murdoch, do I? And nor do I have to talk about bankers. But banking is now a criminal activity. I'm serious. I will not work with any bank at the moment in coaching or training. I will not work with a bank because as far as I'm concerned, they are below the line. And the only way these people are going to change is when we get them to change. Don't look to the authority figures for change. You will not get Cameron or Obama to change the world. We people have to change the world by taking self-responsibility. That's where we've come to. And this is a crucially important time. And I really invite you to think about this. And I haven't got much time today, but I'm going to run through things fairly quickly. But this is the theme of what I want to get across. Coaching is an enormously important profession because product number one of coaching is self-responsibility. That's why coaching became into use 40 years ago, because we were coming to this stage of evolution where everyone needs to be responsible. We have to run everyone in a coaching way, and it's much more than corporations and all that sort of thing. That's just a toy for playing with and to get you started. But this is humanity. We need to think like this in the future. So that's what is the really important thing about coaching. Coaching is much more important than coaching, if you see what I mean. It's far bigger than coaching. This is transformation of society, and coaching is a very valuable tool in that, as perhaps the only profession that is purely focused on getting people to take responsibility and make their own choices. And that's exactly what humanity has to do. Okay? So, just quickly on that film for a moment. Number one in the coaching process is the quality of the relationship you have with the person. And I think you could see that I had a rather different relationship with the girl who I was coaching than that sort of instructional way that the other person had. Very, very important. Don't underestimate the importance of the relationship, the people relationship. That is important. What has gone wrong with people relationship recently, in the last, say, 10 years? It'd be nice to discuss this, but I tell you what, and I'm going to probably upset one or two of you by saying this, the problem is the new technology. And young people are so excited about all the things they can get on the internet and all the things they can do, and they've all got these phones which they can make films with them and all these exciting things, and they love playing with these things. And what have they lost? People skills. People skills is going down amongst the young people. It's going up slowly amongst everyone else. It actually goes down if you look at the research at the moment. So don't get in love with this technology, because the technology is great stuff, but what is not there is the wisdom to use it properly. We are using it very irresponsibly right now, and the result is a mess. Okay? So, very easy for us all to get sucked into some new thing. It's very exciting. But the loss of people skills is extraordinary. I gave 2 stories to a QC recently, a very bright QC lived near me, and I talked to him, I gave him 2 stories, one about the healthcare and one about the police. And he said, that is in every single sector in England today. Loss of people's skills, their inability to deal with people properly. And he said, no, it's not just England. He said, it's the whole of Europe, which is where I work. So it's a very, very serious issue. So very, very important that we have the people skills there in coaching, okay? Now, I don't want to go through any details of coaching per se, because what I want to do is to move forward here to have you think a little bit differently about this. And let me start here. Here's a new world and an old world. And these are some characteristics of the new world and the old world. And I don't want to go into detail about this, but the driver of business is fear. Fear that they won't get it done on time, fear that the bottom line this week won't meet the requirements, etc. Fear of failure in some way. And fear is the thing in sport that makes you underperform. So we've got a wonderful structure of business which makes people underperform. The design of business makes people underperform. Business is shockingly inefficient because people are underperforming. There is another world, which is what I call the trust world here. And that's the world we're moving towards. And if you can look at the paired opposites here, look at the environmental one, for example. We're talking about growth. It's disappeared. Can we have that one back? Anyway, there is growth and sustainability. The old world is all about growth. And the new world's about sustainability. You look at pairs across there. Teaching is the old world. Learning is the new world. Okay? All those are paired opposites. This is the world we are moving to. That is the world that we want to unlearn about. Okay? We need to move beyond that one. Okay? Now, I'm delighted to be with a group of spiritual people because in the evolutionary development of society, you reach a certain stage and spirituality comes into it automatically. In Asia, they do not draw a line between psychology and spiritual development. It's just a continuum. We have our scientific way of silo thinking, and because of that we divide personal development and spiritual development. It's not true. That's just a fault in our science that does that. It's a continuum, okay? And in coaching, one of the things that I do very actively in coaching is coaching people on their spiritual journey. So I just want to run through some things here with us so that we can get a sense of this. Let me start with this, however. Personal development, I'm talking here about a very, very simple evolutionary model, okay? Very, very simple. And that is this one. When we are born, we're dependent, are we not, on our parents? We're dependent on other people to feed us, to take care of us, yeah? You experienced that dependence, didn't you? And then you get taught by school teachers and you're dependent on being taught by them. So we are dependent on authority at the beginning of our lives. Is that true? Okay? Then what happens is we begin to fight for our independence. We sometimes call it the terrible twos, which is the first little leak of it. But when that really comes in, obviously, is in adolescence, isn't it? Why do adolescent people rebel, and when their parents don't ask them to do something, they do the opposite? Why do they do that? Because they haven't had enough choice and responsibility before. And they're finally fed up with it. It is our problem We have created the problem. Our generation, my generation, your generation, continue to create the adolescent problem because we don't help them to become self-responsible when they're 4 or 5 years old, which is when they need to be asked questions and experience the consequences of the choices they make, and that's how they learn. And we don't do it. We just tell them to do this and do that and not do that and so on. So when they're about 14, 15, 16, whatever it is, they start to rebel. If we had proper schooling, we would not have nearly the problem that exists in adolescence. We've got shocking schooling. Okay? We're way, way behind with education. Way, way behind. Okay? I'm working with the European Commission. I'm on a board on the European Commission dealing with traffic safety. The biggest trouble in traffic safety is the enormous amount of fatalities that are caused by young male drivers. Okay? Why? It's that adolescent revolt. So it's literally very serious death that we are not getting our children to grow up as responsible. My ex-wife runs the leading teenage pregnancy prevention course in England, and she just won an award of 100 people in the Guardian newspaper, 100 people who are making a lot of difference in the world. She just won that. She takes pregnancy down in 1 year from 16% people get pregnant in that age group. She gets it down to 1%. Incredible success. Even when the government is running out of money, they gave her a lot of money to keep going because it's more expensive to have illegitimate children than it is to pay for the courses that deals with 16% of them. Okay? So there are major, major issues in our society that need to be put right, and the leadership of our society is asleep. Don't expect Cameron or Obama to do it. No good us looking for other people to do it. We have got to do it. We have to have the courage to make changes. There's an incredible school in Walton-on-Thames. I won't go into details about the school, but there are two schools, one primary and one secondary school in the same area, and I asked the two head teachers together, why do you two people have such success? And how do you get away with doing things that the Department of Education would normally not allow people to do? And they said, it's easy. We just get a good result. And the local government will not object to us doing that. To hell with the rules that they make. We're doing it right, and the local people here love what we're doing. It is down to people to make the difference now. It's not the members of parliament. Okay? And that's a great example. And I asked these two teachers, I said, what would you do to other teachers? What would you recommend to other teachers? And they say that they had the courage to go and do what they need to do, and the government will eventually come around and wake up. Okay? So this is a very, very important process. Okay, I'm going to go quickly forward now. Not very much time left. To just say what we do in coaching about the spiritual side. Okay? And that is that the old type of psychology was analysis, Freudian sort of psychology was there. Behavioral psychology, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was a wonderful film that was just showing what behavioral psychology is like. It's a serious illness, and if you're a behavioral psychologist here, you need some therapy because it's a serious problem. But then we had a bit of a revolt in the 60s and 70s, which I was fortunately involved in. It took place at Esalen Institute in California, where all the top people at that time, like Fritz Perls and I don't know, Abraham Maslow, Carl Rogers, all those people were in California. That's where we all explored the new psychology together. And humanistic psychology was born. And the principle of humanistic psychology, if you're sufficiently self-aware, you will self-correct. Self-awareness is curative within itself. It's curative if I'm walking across here and I've got a stone in my shoe, I don't stop talking to you and go down there, but I automatically adjust my foot to minimize the pain. That's what I mean by being aware. You self-correct anyway. So we talked about awareness, and then we talk about responsibility. You have to make the choice. We have to give people choices. And that's what we're doing with awareness and responsibility. Okay? Now, humanistic psychology was the beginning of that, and then we had transpersonal psychology, and then recently, I'm sure you're familiar with integral psychology, but these top levels. But transpersonal psychology is self-responsibility, and we have a lot of exercises that we do that, which is all about spirituality. Just give you a couple of them very quickly here in my last few minutes, and one of them is this. And that is that the first experience that most ordinary people have in their evolutionary journey, the first experience they have of the awakening of spirituality within themselves is a beginning, a sense that the world is purposeful, that our life is purposeful. There is some sense of direction comes in. There's something that I need to do. And it's very, very important part when people recognize that the world is purposeful and your role in it is purposeful. Now, we have a very good exercise, which I couldn't possibly do now, it takes far too long to do it, with these different things. But the values that you have, the passions that you've had, when you've done something and you felt really passionate about what you did, or the doing of it, and your skills, and also the people that you really admire. If you look at historical figures that you really have a high opinion of, let's say Mahatma Gandhi was one of them. What is the Mahatma Gandhi quality that you like so much? So what I'm saying is these things, these four things on here, are the indicator of your purpose, because you didn't come here by mistake. Your purpose is manifesting more of those things that you really value, that you're passionate about. So we have an exercise here that when people find these things clearly in themselves and their own past, they begin to understand their purpose. A very, very important exercise in coaching. Okay? Another one here. Just want to go on quickly. We also get people, here's just a normal graph. There's the psychological along the bottom, the success, the achievement, and that sort of thing that a lot of people are into. And then there's the spiritual or more artistic and the more qualitative up there, which is also important. So what is your life? And you get people to draw their life on this graph. And most people go along the bottom line because we've got this dreadful economic system called capitalism or consumerism, which makes us want to achieve and make more and get more money and that sort of thing. And it's not a good developmental process. Actually, the economic system we have works against evolution. It's counter-evolutionary. And what happens, that is a balanced line between the two. Quality and quantity is a balanced line between the two. But we are all being driven along that bottom line. Big mistake. What happens, some people, when they get to a certain distance along that line, they have a crisis. And then they go back. They're less successful, but they're beginning to wake up. And then they begin to smell the balanced line. And eventually they go up there. Okay? There's other people who start off up there. Very spiritual people, hippie type of people. They're out there having a wonderful time. They've got a wonderful vision of life and everything's all flowers and it's all beautiful. The only problem is their flat is a chip and they're always coming to borrow money from you. Okay? So what happens to those people? Well, they have the crisis of duality between their incredible vision and their own quality of life. So, you know, they have that crisis. So they give up some of their values and they get a decent job, and then they can begin to earn some money and so on, and they find their way. So it doesn't matter what your journey is, that's what we're trying to find, okay? Trying to find our journey is, that's what we're trying to find, okay? Up here is something that's drawing us in that direction. That is the feel that you're being drawn in a direction, okay? These are only models, they're not true, by the way. Okay, there's various other exercises I won't go into because I'm coming to a quick end, but this one is very important, and I'll start here very quickly. Can you just read that? Is that true for you? Okay. There are times when I look over the various parts of my character with perplexity. I recognize that I'm made up of several persons, and that the person that at the moment has the upper hand will inevitably give place to another at some time. You ever had this inner conflict? You know, when you wake up in the morning, there are some people, the sun is shining, it's beautiful, and they think, oh, let's go out for a run. No sooner have they thought that, but there's another voice in the head says, no, 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 be lazy, stay in bed. And the one that says stay in bed always wins, yeah? So we have that inner conflict, right? We have a lot of subpersonalities, we call them, which create that inner conflict. And so we operate like very inefficient teams. If you've got a number of people in the team that disagree with each other, the team's not very good. So anyway, we have to do various things with these subpersonalities, notes, aren't they? Until what happens? Conductor appears. Yeah? The conductor does not have an instrument, and yet the conductor manages that orchestra. Within you is who you really are. You are not your subpersonalities, that's just a game, those are just the acts you put on in your daily life. Oh, I'm a business person, or I'm a doctor, I'm a this, or I'm a coach. You know, all those things. That's just nonsense. That's not who you are. That's just your job or your label or something like that. Who you really are is best looked at as the conductor of the orchestra, which is called the I in psychological terms. And that conductor has amazing capacity to manage that orchestra, don't they? And so the characteristics of the I are these. Pure consciousness and pure will was how Roberto Assagioli, one of the great early psychologists, described it. And that is awareness and responsibility. So awareness and responsibility in coaching is much, much deeper than that. You're actually reaching into people to find a really deep part of themselves, which is awareness and responsibility. Okay? And that was described in Good to Great, Jim Collins' book. There were only 5 people of something like 1,000 who were at the top level of leadership, and those were their qualities, and that's exactly awareness and responsibility again. When you become self-aware, you inevitably become humble. It's automatic. So this is the spiritual level of coaching. This is what we're trying to find in people. Now, going one further, and I'm just where we're coming to an end here, so if I'm... you have a conductor, there's something else that's missing, isn't there? Who's the composer? So we are, what we might call God is the composer. Okay? And we touch into that because then we manifest a little bit of that ourselves. Okay? We touch into that part. The only bit that we can experience regularly is being the conductor. So that's what we're doing with the most advanced levels of coaching. We're helping people to find out who they are and so on and so forth. Okay? That's the purpose there. All right, so we're just there, which is going to give you one more food for thought. Three issues here. Last one we've talked about. Consumerism is about more and more and more. Capitalism is about more and more. You've got to grow the economy. When you grow the economy, what you got? You get more production and you get more emissions. We are supposed to reduce our emissions by 80% by 2050.
Can you use this if you come here?
Okay. We have a massive difference to make, massive difference. We're all in denial. We do not recognize how serious the situation is in the world today. I'm just going to say, you need to think about your grandchildren. If we don't reduce ourselves to reduce our thing by 2050 by 80% of what it is today, we will have a lot of problems with our grandchildren. They will have a lot of problems. We have to do it. We are doing nothing about the environment at the moment. It's been on the TV. It's been on there for at least 15 years. We've had a lot of stuff on the TV. What's happened in 15 years? Our emissions have gone up by 27%. Wake up. We have got to wake up. And the denial of people is incredible, and that's fear. Fear causes them to say, that's not my problem, I don't know about that, I can't do anything about that. We all have to be responsible, okay? Quantitative technological advances, which is knowledge, is so far ahead of the wisdom that causes you to use the knowledge responsibly. All since the Industrial Revolution 200 years ago began, we got sucked in to engineering our way to utopia. It started with railways, bridges, steel ships, all sorts of things at the beginning of the revolution. There was a lot of money and population grew, everything. It was great. We had the Industrial Revolution, benefit to everyone, except the very poor, of course, didn't benefit much, but the rest did. But we did not have the wisdom to use that responsibly. So what we have done is for 200 years, we have used our knowledge, and now recently with aviation and cars and now this electronic thing, we are absolutely on destructive self-destruct course. We've got to wake up. So these are the problems we're facing, these three problems. The second one is appalling. We've got to teach wisdom to children. We don't. We teach them more and more knowledge so they can make more money. Absolutely sick. We've lost the storytelling of the grandmother who used to sit in front of the fire with the children at her feet and tell them metaphorical stories, and those stories are what the children learn from. Instead, we send them off to school and give them all this technological rubbish. We've got to change it, okay? And the last one I mentioned before. So, I just wanted to leave you out with a little thought to think of while I go. I just want to end with one thing. I am very, very strong about this. I'm very, very passionate about it, okay? But I'm also very excited. Somebody asked me the other day, if you had a time in history where you wanted to be alive, in anything you know about history, where would it be? I would say right now, it's the most exciting opportunity we have to be who we all really are, to rise to the occasion and take over the leadership from conscious people like ourselves instead of the people who are leading corporations and banks and countries like that. There are, some of them are quite brilliant, but it's very difficult for them to work properly. We have to take self-responsibility, okay? Now, where you put the spirituality and psychology in there is up to you, you know. Or I just end by saying I've been on a very, very profound spiritual journey for 40 years now, and I would love to tell you the story about that, because I've had in deep understanding of the evolution of the last 32,000 years of humanity and why we are in the state we are now. And I would love to share it with you, but it's not going to happen today. Okay, so I've been too long. I've probably used up the question time, but
well, actually, I feel really bad having to come on and say, you know, it's time to wrap up. And I'm sure we would all love John to go on some more, but it'd be really lovely to get a few questions before we move on. And I just want to let you know that John's staying here all day. So you can grab him, hopefully, have a chat with him, exchange some of your thoughts. But it'd be lovely for you to get some questions, because there was just so much in your talk this morning. And we need you all day. So, John, can we... actually, we need a mic. So can you put your hands up if you have any questions, okay?
You'll need a microphone, because I used to be a professional racing driver, and the result of that is I'm deaf. So pop musicians and racing drivers are always deaf. And I'm sorry, I am, so you'll have to shout now.
So we'll make it 3 questions, and so yours is the first.
Hi there, John. So John, my question is, when it comes to sort of the corporate industry, the word spirit, they run a mile.
Yeah.
How do you then raise their awareness to be able to tap into the root cause of their behavior pattern to get to where they want to be?
Okay. What I find is this word, this psychological word, transpersonal, means beyond the person. What is beyond the person? It may be, family therapy is beyond the person, it's beyond the individual. But another thing that's beyond the personal discussion is our spiritual lives. And so transpersonal psychology is actually about the spiritual, but transpersonal is not a threatening word to business people. So these kind of courses, the things that I showed you here, I've done that with business people, and they have no problem with that. You just don't call it spiritual. It is spiritual. They do find purpose in their life and everything else. But as long as you don't mention spiritual, you can't use the S word, you know, and people get it. So thank you, good question.
One from this side. Is anyone who would like to?
You're going to have to shout loud from there.
Thanks for the talk, by the way, it was really good. I'm just trying to understand, when you talk about the conductor, the composer, and the orchestra,
Yeah.
where does the mind and the spirit come into that? Because for me, we're all run by our minds, but obviously we really want to be true to ourselves and be part of our spirit. So where's the distinction between those areas? I got a bit confused. Thank you.
Okay, first of all, let me be very clear that nothing I say is true. Because nothing you say is true either. That's a bit disappointing, isn't it? Because we all live by our story of life. We create a story about how life works. And that comes from your upbringing and all the different things that happen to you in your life. You've got a story about how life works, all right? And then you live your life by that. It's not true, it's just your story, okay? And then as you go on that journey, you may rewire your story a bit. You may say, oh, I had a bit that was wrong there, and you change your story a little bit, so we get a better story. So anything that anyone tells you, and this includes science, anything that anyone tells you, it's a simplification of the reality. What we need to do is to recognize that these things are just models, and then you go behind the model and say, okay, here's a model. What that means is that quite a high percentage of people live in that sort of model. But where am I? Where do I differ from that? Where am I the same? That's what we want to explore. That's the extra level of awareness we're going to. Don't believe any of these models, because if you believe a model, you get stuck there. And you've got to create your own journey. So you'll refine your own model as you go. So things like, you know, spirit and where's the mind and where's this, and I mean, you know, you've got your emotions, you've got your body reacts to the emotions you have, your body changes when you have a certain thought, you get a feeling in your solar plexus or in some muscles and things. So they're all interconnected. They're all interconnected. You can't separate them. You have a thought, as soon as you have a thought, there's likely to be some sort of emotional reaction to that, and there's likely to be a physical reaction to your emotional reaction. So what we have to do here, and this is very, very important, and I value the question again, because I should have mentioned it earlier, that what we have to do is to begin to think in terms of whole systems. We are not individuals separate. We've got a science which teaches us in silos. And that's not the way the world is. Everything is interconnected. Everything is interconnected. What you do has an effect on other people. What we do, you know, the environmental story, everything is incredibly connected. And the scientists will say, oh, that's okay, that's not a problem. It's not a problem on itself. But the trouble is that that has an effect on this and that and the other. And the scientist is a specialist in this area and doesn't recognize the things that rub off on it. You know, we've got to start thinking different, and whole system thinking is very, very important. Everything is interconnected, and recognizing that. And incidentally, natural system thinking is also necessary. Little thing on natural thinking is that nature is very, very capable of dealing with the things that it faces. For example, some of you may have a sewage system in your house which is a reed bed cleansing, water cleansing stuff. I see a few nods here, so nature does a better job of cleaning water than humanity. Nature figures out what the toxin is within 48 hours. And one of the leading water people in England is a guy called Lucien Gill, and he says, he started a huge thing like that in Sudan some time ago, and he says, what nature works out in 48 hours, we would probably take 4 months to work out. Okay? And we, unfortunately, try to manipulate nature instead of learn from it. One final thing I'm going to suggest, just to make the people who are very excited about their new iPhones and all those things that they have, these new toys. Each of them have got a chip in them, right? You've got a chip in it, right? And your chip is so smart, isn't it? And you get a better chip, and you proudly show it to your other people. You know, what does a chip look like anyway? But you say, I've got this one, it does this, this, and this, and this. Yeah? The day you can take out your phone, and just by pushing some buttons, you can design the house that you want to live in. And then you take your chip out and put it in the ground and watch your house grow. When we do that, we'll be as smart as nature. Every seed of a plant or a tree is hundreds of times smarter than your chips that you've spent a lot of money and you collected them and you're excited about them. Out there is a little bush, and its seed in that bush is smarter than anything you can design yourself. When we are humble enough to realize that, truly learn from nature, truly learn from whole systems, and take responsibility for ourselves, then we'll get the world right. I am optimistic about it despite my fury about it, because I'm very upset as well. But we have to speak out. We must speak out. If we just get upset about these things and don't do something about it, we're part of the problem. We're not part of the solution. If you just submit to it, you're part of the problem. Got to wake up. We've got to get our schooling, our education to change dramatically. I have a huge project in China with education. They pay for me to go to China quite regularly, and we are building an academy in China to bring together the best parts of education, to start education, and it ain't nothing like our schools are. Okay? So, food for thought, but I'm very excited about the future. I'm very enthusiastic about it. I think we've got great opportunities, and those of you who are involved in coaching now, building self-responsibility, that's wonderful. And that's it, I'm off. I'm not leaving, I'm around if anyone wants to
But before you go, I know that so many of you would want to say this, and I just hope I can do it some justice in terms of just summarising, in terms of just saying a massive thank you for being such an amazing pioneer and champion of coaching in the UK and globally. Thank you for the depth and the breadth of what you brought to this presentation today. You travelled the historical context, you travelled behind the models and into the models. You reminded us of what it means to really be ourselves and to know that who we are is what's really important. I appreciated your passion and your fury, and for your ability to stand for what you believe in and not just go after the money, and really follow your heart and follow what's true for you. You said some exquisite quotes today, which I'm taking away, but particularly what's tingled me is just the enormous power and potency of nature and what we can learn from that. And I'm just so glad that you're here modelling to us what I hope we're all doing, and I know we're all doing. Fantastic. You've got to come back. Would you like him back? Would you accept? I would love to have him back. So John Whitmore, thank you.
Thank you very much, all of you. I just want to give you one hint to go away with. I have learned that a lot of the things that affect us, we believe they are a problem because society tells us they are a problem. And actually, you have more self-control than we are allowed to think. The pharmaceutical industry are very, very good at causing us to have problems because they need to invest a lot of money in putting it right. But for example, I'll just give you one example. I travel every week, and I'm in Australia, China, and all these places. I do not have jet lag, is just a myth. Jet lag is totally within your mental control. So I have explored that and tried other things, and I found other things were in my mental control. I've done that enough to know that we all have far more control over our lives and over our own health and all those things than we will believe. Please go away and play with that one. I want you to be healthy and long-lived, because we need people like you to change the world.
Thank you. Thank you.